in the bustling heart of London's ITV studios, where the air crackles with anticipation and the faint scent of freshly brewed tea mingles with the hum of lighting rigs, the set of Loose Women comes alive once more. It's a typical Wednesday afternoon in early 2025, and the panel is buzzing with a usual mix of candid confessions, heartfelt advice, and light-hearted banter that has made this long-running chat show a staple for daytime television viewers across the UK. Today, the lineup features the ever-fiery Denise Welch, the sharp-witted Nadia Sawalha, the unflappable Janet Street Porter, and as a special guest, none other than the controversial comedian Ricky Gervais. The audience, a diverse crowd of women in their seats, applauds enthusiastically as the theme music fades, and host Christine Lampard introduces the segment with her trademark warmth. Little do they know, this episode is about to veer sharply into uncharted territory, transforming a routine discussion on celebrity privacy into a powder keg of raw emotion and unfiltered opinions. Gervais, fresh off his latest Netflix special that's been both praised for its biting satire and lambasted for its perceived insensitivity, strides onto the set with his signature smirk, ready to engage or perhaps provoke. The conversation kicks off innocuously enough, with Welch sharing a personal anecdote about the perils of social media trolls invading one's private life, her voice laced with the authenticity that comes from decades in the spotlight. Gervais nods along, his eyes twinkling with that mischievous glint that fans adore and critics dread. As the panel delves deeper, the topic shifts to the boundaries between public figures and their personal spheres, a discussion that's as timely as ever in our hyper-connected world. Welch, drawing from her own experiences with tabloid scrutiny during her time on Coronation Street and beyond, passionately argues for a stricter code of conduct among celebrities when it comes to oversharing. It's here that Gervais interjects, his tone playful yet pointed, suggesting that if one chooses the fame game, they can't cry foul when the spotlight swings a bit too close to home. Returning from the break, the studio lights dim slightly for dramatic effect, though no one scripted the drama unfolding. Christine Lampard, sensing the charged atmosphere, eases back in with a lighter topic of perhaps the latest fashion faux pas at a recent award show, but the elephant in the room is impossible to ignore. Denise Welch, her cheeks flushed with a mix of lingering emotion and resolve, wastes no time in reigniting the fuse. She turns to Gervais directly, her Geordie accent thickening with intensity, and challenges him. "Ricky, love, you sit there preaching about toughening up, but have you ever felt the weight of 1,000 strangers dissecting your family's pain?" The question lands like a gauntlet thrown, the audience gasping in unison, a collective intake of breath that echoes through the rafters. Gervais, ever the quick-witted Perry, responds with a quip about the perils of marrying into the public eye, but there's an edge to it now, sharper than before, as if the playful banter has given way to something more primal. The panel erupts into a cacophony of overlapping voices, Nadia advocating for empathy in a digital age, Janet decrying the hypocrisy of celebrities who profit from vulnerability yet demand insulation, Gervais, holding court with animated gestures, his hand slicing the air like a conductor leading chaos, insists that his brand of humor is a public service, a mirror held up to society's hypocrisies, and that Welch's sensitivity is precisely what fuels the trolls he mocks. Welch fires back, her words tumbling out in a torrent. "It's easy for you, Ricky, with your fortress of Netflix deals and sold-out arenas. Not all of us have that buffer when the knives come out." The studio falls into a stunned hush, broken only by the distant whir of cameras adjusting focus. Lampard interjects, her voice a soothing balm, attempting to mediate with questions that probe deeper without drawing blood. "Ricky, do you think there's a line where comedy crosses into cruelty?" But Gervais, leaning forward now, eyes locked on Welch, retorts that the line is drawn by the easily offended, and that true art demands we step over it. The audience is divided, some nod in agreement with Gervais' libertarian streak, others murmur support for Welch's grounded plea for humanity. As the debate spirals, personal barbs begin to fly, Gervais alluding to Welch's past battles with addiction as a cautionary tale of oversharing gone wrong, a low blow that elicits boos from the crowd. Welch, undaunted, rises to her feet, her chair scraping against the floor like nails on a chalkboard, and delivers a impassioned soliloquy on resilience born not from bravado but from survival, her tears glistening under the lights but her chin held high. The other panelists rally around her, creating a tableau of solidarity that contrasts sharply with Gervais' isolated stance, his isolation self-imposed yet stark. As the debate escalated into its second round post-break, Welch delved deeper into the human cost, citing personal stories of friends and family members who'd suffered from misgendering and the very real-world harm that stems from what she termed insensitive punchlines masquerading as satire, her voice rising with the passion of someone who's walked the line between public persona and private pain, drawing sympathetic applause from sections of the crowd who shared her views on empathy as the cornerstone of progress. The audience, a diverse mix of housewives, retirees, and young professionals crammed into the tiered seating, leaned forward collectively, their reactions a microcosm of Britain's cultural seismic collapse for Welch mingling with murmurs of support for Gervais' unyielding stance. Gervais, however, refused to back down an inch, countering with vivid examples from history where biting satire had toppled tyrants, exposed hypocrisies in the church and state, and ultimately paved the way for social change, insisting that shielding fragile feelings shouldn't come at the expense of unvarnished truth-telling in a world already drowning in euphemisms. "I'm not punching down at vulnerable people, I'm punching up at the idiocy of enforced orthodoxy that stifles real conversation," he declared, his gestures animated and expansive, face flushed with the authentic heat of argument, his Yorkshire accent thickening under pressure as he paced the verbal tightrope between provocation and profundity. The host, Lampard, with her poised professionalism cracking at the edges, attempted to interject with neutral questions about Gervais' upcoming projects, steering desperately toward safer waters like his love for dogs and David Brent impressions, but the two combatants were locked in a verbal tango, each point met with a sharper, more incisive retort that left no room for easy reconciliation. The turning point arrived like a thunderclap when Welch, her composure fraying at the edges after Gervais' latest salvo on the tyranny of offense, accused him outright of perpetuating division in an already polarized society, her words cutting through the studio's charged air like a knife through silk. "Your jokes aren't just harmless words, Rick, they have consequences that echo in boardrooms, schools, and bedrooms where people feel unseen and unsafe because of casual cruelty wrapped in wit." She slammed her hand lightly on the glossy desk for emphasis, the sound amplified by the microphones into a resonant thud that reverberated through the speakers, underscoring her frustration born from decades in the spotlight where she's faced her own share of body shaming and mental health stigma. Gervais paused dramatically, letting the accusation hang for a heartbeat that felt eternal, then unleashed a torrent of response. "Consequences? Like what, Denise? A few blue checks getting their knickers in a twist on Twitter, or actual harm, like banning books or silencing dissent? That's not consequence, that's a privileged tantrum from those who can't distinguish between a joke and a manifesto." Laughter rippled from the back rows, where Gervais' die-hard fans clustered, but boos echoed from the front, where Welch's supporters waved supportive banners, the divide in the audience mirroring the nation's broader cultural fault lines with stark, uncomfortable clarity. Producers in the control room exchanged panicked glances, whispers of pull the plug circulating amid the soaring ratings that flashed on auxiliary screens, a Faustian bargain where drama equaled dollars but risked brand integrity. Welch, undeterred and fueled by adrenaline, pressed on relentlessly, invoking her experiences with public scrutiny during her Geordie Shore stint and the Geordie Shore era, emphasizing the importance of empathy in comedy as a tool for healing rather than harm. Her narrative laced with vulnerability that tugged at heartstrings across the demographic spectrum. Gervais, the provocateur incarnate, quipped back about the delicious irony of a show titled Loose Women suddenly policing loose tongues and unfiltered opinions, eliciting a collective gasp from the panel and a smattering of shocked laughter that broke the tension momentarily, only to rebuild it higher. The clash was no longer a mere discussion but a full-throated spectacle, raw and unfiltered, captivating the millions glued to their screens at home, from tea-sipping pensioners to office workers sneaking peeks on phones, all bearing witness to a masterclass in ideological combat. Tensions peaked inexorably as the segment barreled toward its chaotic apex, with Gervais leaning in close to the desk, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial timbre that commanded silence, before dropping a particularly incendiary line about woke warriors patrolling comedy-like thought police in a dystopian novel, a zinger honed from years of stand-up that struck at the heart of Welch's advocacy and ignited the powder keg. Welch shot to her feet in a fluid motion, microphone clutched like a talisman, her face a mask of controlled fury as she demanded an immediate apology not just for her but for every viewer who'd ever felt marginalized by such flippancy. "This isn't banter, Ricky, it's bullying dressed as bravery, and I'm not standing for it on this stage or any other." The studio erupted into pandemonium, cheers from Gervais loyalists thundering like applause at a rock concert, jeers from Welch's corner sharp as shattered glass, and frantic handclaps from neutrals caught in the crossfire, creating a cacophony that drowned out Lampard's pleas for calm. Christine, her anchor poise fracturing under the onslaught, signaled frantically to the floor manager with subtle hand gestures, her eyes darting between the timer and the turmoil, but the damage was irreparably done. The segment had veered into uncharted, uninsurable territory where entertainment bled into earnest confrontation. Gervais, sensing the shift like a shark smells blood, shrugged with exaggerated innocence, palms upturned in theatrical surrender. "See, this is precisely what I mean. I can't handle a bit of truth without declaring war. It's exhausting being the villain in your morality play." Welch, tears of righteous frustration glistening in the spotlights, retorted with venomous precision that truth without a drop of kindness was merely cruelty in a boaty, her words hanging heavy in the stunned silence that followed like fallout from an explosion, piercing the noise and forcing even the staunchest supporters to pause, cut abruptly to an ad break amid the lingering echoes, but not before roaming cameras captured the panel's stunned, slack-jawed expressions and the audience's polarized frenzy of fist pumps on one side, heads shaking in disbelief on the other, immortalizing the raw humanity of the moment. Backstage, the whispers grew to urgent shouts, with ITV executives huddled in a glass-walled office overlooking the set, deliberating in terse phrases about liability, brand fallout, and the golden goose of viral gold, their decision crystallizing in the break's final seconds. This wasn't just a spat between celebrities, it was a cultural earthquake, shaking the foundations of daytime TV's carefully curated decorum and exposing the fragility of civility when deep-seated beliefs collide under the glare of public scrutiny.